Hey there, film fans. I'm Jeff.
I'm Dave.
And I'm John, and welcome back to The Love of Cinema, a pod in which we'll challenge one another to discuss movies, both new and old, with a strictly positive critical eye.
That's right. And to keep us positive, to avoid lazy negativity, we decided to make this a little bit of a drinking game.
Talking about you, Mark Monstrowski.
So anytime we say anything negative at all, you're going to hear this sound. And that sound means that we are actually going to take a real live drink. And we hope you drink along with us.
So, pour yourselves a glass. We're going to get our true crime fuck on.
Our true crime fuck. Cheers. Pre-show shot, guys. Let's do it.
Tequila.
All right, people. So for those of you new to the show, welcome. We try to keep it positive and we talk about movies. Anytime we say anything negative, we drink. As we just said, we are also using a random year generator to go back in time and take another look at some movies, maybe to heighten them up, prop them up, but also just remind ourselves and you the context of when they came out. This is 2007 that was pulled, which is widely regarded, not just by me, but all the stuffy critics that we love, as one of the greatest film years of all time because of a couple notable movies. And this one, Zodiac, I think many of you listening probably know what it is. You know, it's a David Fincher film. You probably know the cast, but it wasn't in that conversation, Academy Award conversation, etc., you know, at the end of the year stuff. So, but it has endured the test of time. So we're happy to give it another look and talk about it here on the podcast today. At the end of the episode, we're going to give you recommendations, tell you what we've been watching. It's December here in 2023. And no mini reviews of new movies that came out this week. So we got a gripe or two, and then we'll be on our way. But first, John, you're going to shout our sponsors out. Carlos is back, guys. We saw a picture of beer that's coming to us in January.
Yes. Carlos Barroso, the one and only beer master who has been our sponsor since the beginning. You can follow that gentleman on Instagram at cbarroso.beer. Check the show notes for the link. We also have a musical artist in residence. You've heard him on the show. You've heard his music at the beginning and end of every single episode. The music is available to stream on every single music platform. Dasein, D-A-S-E-I-N. Go over there, stream, enjoy. You're welcome. Yeah. That's great. You guys are getting some burr from Mr. Barroso. That's great.
Yeah, John, you'll probably not get any.
I'm probably not going to get any. That's
I'm
okay.
not doing a moonshine run to North Carolina or anything.
Oh, man, that'd be great. This ends now. No one, Ron throws back the handle.
Dukes of Hazzard, jumping shit off the...
You clowns. I'm very, very, very jealous of you guys going to be in North Carolina soon. But Dave and I are here in New York City. John's in California, in the city of Los Angeles. So excited. Any news? Anything you want to shout out, John, before Dave and I give you some gripes? Any updates?
No.
You're filming a movie, though, which I think is cool. It's cool to remind the people that you actually do this. Dave, you actually do this. I enjoy hanging out with you guys. Dave's been shooting up a storm. John's directing this week. So awesome. Exciting. You're looking forward to what you're doing.
Lots of things. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've got a big final, big kind of thesis project going on at USC, working with a bunch of really great people. This will be the kind of like big project that I'm making in school. I don't know if you guys know. Did I tell you all I got into USC? Jesus Christ. I swear I'm not that guy. But
and John has the undergrad shirt on too, the Elon Musk sweatshirt, as Mark likes to call it.
Yeah, everybody asks. It's so annoying.
Yeah,
give me back my undergrad.
He'll be
Elon
gone soon.
Musk. God damn it.
He'll be gone soon.
All right, Dave.
Honestly.
You said you have two gripes. I have a gripe as well. So we're going to gripe just to get us drinking, people, get us talking before we talk about the film year 2007, and then take a hard look at
just for anyone who hasn't tuned in, the gripe section at the start of the show is so we can get something off our chest, drink free, because, you know, if you drink that much, you'd die. So we have a chance to buzzer free for 60 seconds, get it off your chest, and you're good.
All right, that's your own setup.
First?
Well, you had two, so let's see where you go with at least one, and then
all right.
see. Go ahead.
Starting this timer.
Go ahead.
So Sony on Sony PlayStations has a licensing agreement with Warner Brothers Discovery where you can buy the movies and have them on your PlayStation account. Now, I know people have been warning about this for years, but nobody's ever actually done it to this effect. Everyone who owns a PlayStation and has Discovery stuff recently got a letter or an email telling them that all the stuff they bought will be taken away, because the licensing no longer applies. So the thing they bought to own is now being taken off their library. So Warner Brothers is the first person to actually pull this theft and take the movie back. which doesn't surprise me at all, given what they've done to fucking Batgirls and tax write-off and stuff like that. But it's like, how far is this going to fucking go? Like, what is Zaslav doing over there?
Wait, you bought something that you're not going to be able to have access to?
This hasn't happened to me, but other people have bought stuff, and they've now got an email saying, as of 31st of December, you don't own that anymore. It's no longer going to be in your library.
Can you
This is
download
something
it?
that, dude. No. This is something that I think nobody ever talks about enough. But iTunes and Amazon, they're technically owning the product, and you are technically licenses. You are owning a license to stream from them, but they technically own the product. And it's always been something that everybody who's a hardcore physical person, like a Blu-ray DVD collector, that's what they're always arguing about, is that technically you don't own a streaming movie if you buy it.
Essentially, what you're buying is video on demand. It's not, you don't own a physical copy of it. And it's hidden down there in the contract. But it's just Warner Brothers is the first one to actually take the shit back.
Whew, God almighty.
Jesus Christ.
It started.
Uproar, dude. That is money
just at
out of people's pockets.
At exactly the time that fucking Best Buy has taken all their physical media off the shelf.
Yeah, physical media is dying.
What a missed opportunity.
Guys, what if all this shit, we are of a certain age, I realize we're saying this, but what if all this shit, we come into this like new brave world that actually pushes us back into movie theaters and back into physical media? And we start buying DVDs again, renting DVDs again. Netflix goes back to fucking giving out DVDs again.
No, I mean, I don't think Netflix ever shut that arm down, to be honest.
I thought they did. Maybe
they did recently. It was still going for a long time.
They had the warehouses. I think they just got rid of the warehouse.
That library was incredible too. They had everything. But
oh my God,
that would be so cool if we would go back to having more physical media. I've always been one of those people who's like not a huge collector person, but I kind of always wish I had a reason to be.
Yeah, same.
I stopped buying it when I started moving countries, and it like you've got regions to deal with, and it's like, oh, this is a region 1, I'm in a region 4, and it's like I can't play that in this country, so I've got to buy it again. It was like, fuck it, I can just
you make a really good point with the globalization. There are certain kinds of prints of DVDs that can play across all 4 regions across the world.
6, I think.
I think it'd be great if they just like cut that through. Everybody is so globalized now. We want to be able to take them everywhere. Dave, one time I moved with all of my books. I was like, fuck that shit. Suitcases of books. I'm fucking never doing that again.
That is not the first time I've heard someone say that.
Yeah. For stuff that you'll probably, most of which you will never reread again, but they look good on the bookshelf.
They look great. Look how smart I am. Yeah, honestly. All right, Jeff. Great, man.
Jeff, what's yours?
Fuck that shit.
Okay, are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right, go ahead. Gripe timer. Start the gripe timer. Okay.
I'm like, I missed the button.
So it was Angela's birthday this week, which is not my gripe, of course. But Angela's birthday was yesterday. Happy birthday, Angela. It was so fun.
Happy birthday,
Yay.
Guys, I'm sick of the joke where people say, well, what time were you born? Because, it's not your birthday yet. I'm so sorry.
It's your birthday.
What are we celebrating? It's the birth... What? What is it? It's the birth... is it the birth time?
Minute.
Is it the birth day? No, it's the fucking birthday, which is a way of saying birth date without sounding like an asshole. It's the fucking day I was born, all right? And the universe is fucking expanding, so I'm not in the same spot I was born in anyway. Not that we can ever measure that or know. Maybe I'm the closest I'll ever be. Doesn't fucking matter. Yeah, I was born at 8:30. Oh, I was born at 4:30. It's not your birthday. Shut the fuck up. It's my birthday. It's the day I was born. We need to get rid of that joke. It's just a way of dodging you feeling good for me, giving me a little bit of love. It's your way of saying, let me take this moment because me, we're selfish in this country, and I think this proves it. It proves it. Also, it's just dads that are trying to be funny, and I understand that too, but it's the birthday.
I'll tag on just a touch to that one. I think the only person who could argue that is maybe Dave, since he literally was born around the world and it was a different day. So unless your friend is from New Zealand or Australia, shut the fuck up. But I've also always thought it was
there are other countries down there, right?
Yeah, nah. I've always Fiji or whatever, fuck it. Fiji, our listeners, don't turn away.
Yeah,
sorry I said
Fiji's
that.
awesome, man. I was at the airport once. They're really nasty at the Fijian airport because you pull in and they make you get off the plane and then you have to walk outside to get back into the terminal so you can see the fucking beach. Like you can see it, but you can't go to it because you haven't gone through customs.
So close to the far. I've always thought it was fucking bullshit, and I've never understood it. Why are we celebrating your day? It's your mom's fucking day, dude. She fucking did all the work.
She has a day and a birthday. She's got 2 days.
Yes, sure. But like, I've always, on my birthday, I've always called her and just been like, thanks, Mom. Like, this is so silly. What did I do?
Good point.
I just got ripped out of your stuff.
We should really start celebrating the day before and be like, Mom, right around now, things really started to suck for you. And I'm really glad you stuck it out.
Yeah. It's like,
God, that's
okay.
good. That's
Also,
fun.
if you want to go down that three, we're celebrating a birthday. So life starts when?
Oh, yeah. I want to gush you so bad. Oh, my
Look at
God.
him getting political at the jump out of a joke. I like it.
Can you
That was
Can
subtle.
you people fucking vote? I hate when people are like, mask mandates, whatever, vote Republican. And then they're like, why is abortion being taken away? Good. Sorry, this is not a political podcast.
Yeah, stop.
Did you have another? Yeah, buzz me. No, you can buzz me. Buzz me. Fucking, I can take it.
Take it.
I don't know.
Dave, did you have another
I liked your
gripe?
rant last time.
All right. So this week, starting the timer, our movie was on Paramount Plus. Sure, Showtime. Paramount Plus with Showtime, which is what it now is. Now, I have Paramount Plus with Showtime Premium.
Yeah.
Great. No ads, HDR,
Humble brag, yeah.
like 4K. No, it's not. It's no ads, 4K, standard HD, unless you own a supported device. And the supported devices are, there's only fucking 6 of them. If you own an Apple TV, a Roku, or my fucking like $2,500 Samsung TV will not play 4K HDR on Paramount Plus because they don't support it as a supported device. What the fuck am I paying for?
I don't know. To be honest, though, I would push back on you and ask, what the fuck are you doing paying for a 4K television? I don't think the human eye can tell the difference between 1080, 2K, and 4K unless you're in a movie theater. No,
You really can.
It's a big TV. Hey, look great on my TV.
You can't tell 8K, but you can tell 4K.
So you and I both watched it in HD then, because I have a 1080 plasma. I never went up to the LED 2K or 4K.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've
But
4K
it says
TV.
it literally says there it's available on supported devices
But-
like 4K
right.
Ultra HD.
Yeah.
Like the best you can possibly
So
get
they're basically
on current technology.
making
And
money.
yeah, they're
They have
charging
some
me a
kind of
premium
deal with those groups.
They're charging me a premium price, but not giving me the premium service.
Yeah.
And there's no
Yeah.
tier in the middle where you can go, hey, well, you don't qualify for that service because you don't have a device.
And I have a 4K
Remember
TV.
at one point in the beginning of the digital era, early 2000s, when we were beginning, you were starting to see rift wars of universal usage between large companies like Microsoft and Macintosh, and how the promise, the dream, was that none of that was ever going to actually be interrupted eventually. It was just going to be seamless. They were going to do whatever they needed to do so we could use all our devices. I mean, this is just another example where like they have found ways to make money off of us to support them working with each other.
To be honest,
Yeah.
though, like if I'm paying whatever it is, it's like $17 or $15, whatever it is now, a month for Paramount and Showtime, and I expect them to have more than fucking 8 devices that the full functionality of the channel works on.
It's really strange. And I'm, by the way,
Get your shit together, Paramount Plus.
and I'm still mad that you can reserve these through either Amazon or Apple. And so if you accidentally don't cancel it and it comes in on your bill as iTunes and you just assume that you just spend a lot of money, and then like 3 months go by and you're like, oh shit, I've been paying for fucking Paramount Plus, but it looks
That
like
was me.
iTunes on my bill. Oh, those
was me.
bastards, those fucking slick bastards, all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, at least you can watch it in 4K Ultra HD because you have an Apple TV.
I can, and
That's
I can,
true.
and I can through my TV. But all of John's apps that I put in on my Apple TV, which doesn't support 4K, I don't want to get too risky and log in. Anyway, yeah, but that's right. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all right.
Just to shut you up.
Thank you. Where was that last week? I had like a 6-minute fucking talk that you guys didn't rein me in on.
Yeah, it was funny.
We liked it. Everybody liked it.
Actually, I think I was peeing.
Actually, Dave was being during that. All right. Are you guys ready to
old.
talk about one of the greatest film years of all time, 2007? Are you ready to get into it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one might be a little tricky for us because the movie that we talked about when we did the summer blockbuster face-off, where we took the highest grossing summer movie of every year and pitted them off against each other to determine once and for all what was the greatest summer blockbuster of all time, which was definitely not from 2007. We talked about a different movie that was not number 1. It actually was number 3 on the worldwide box office this year. There was a couple of different reasons for that, but we mostly went domestic numbers. That was reason number 1. Because internationally, what was the highest grossing movie that came out in 2007? Any guesses? Because I know you guys don't do your research ahead of time. I'm kidding.
No. I mean, if it's not what we talked about, which was Spider-Man 3, it's got to be Deathly Hallows or it's got to be Transformers.
Good guesses. Good guesses. Wrong.
Okay.
No, good guess.
What other giant movies came out that year?
So believe it or not, Deathly Hallows.
Order of the Phoenix. Sorry,
Order of the
Phoenix,
Phoenix.
not-
Order of the Phoenix was number 2 worldwide for sure. Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. That's the third Pirates of the Caribbean movie worldwide. Was number 1.
Really?
Cool.
$960 million
Nice.
worldwide. Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, which is number 5
never made
in the
another
series, went $939 million worldwide. Spider-Man 3 was $894. Shrek the Third. These fucking Shrek movies made so much money. Shrek 1 and 2 were technically both the highest grossing movies of those years, or at least certainly of the summer. Shrek the Third made $807 million. How about that? Transformers comes in at number 5 at just over $700 million. The next 2 Transformer movies made $1 billion. Ratatouille comes in at number 6 here at 626. I Am Legend with Will Smith, and that's it.
Yes.
Which apparently we're
comes
getting a
in at-
sequel to.
Sure.
No, for real.
making a sequel?
They're making
Yeah.
a sequel.
That
I
came
don't
in
know how.
7 at
Oh,
585. The Simpsons movie made $500 million. That's pretty cool at number 8.
Oh, that's cool.
National Treasure Book of Secrets, 457.
Nice.
That bought Nicolas Cage
I
and
like those
Island.
movies.
Yeah.
And then
Everyone loves those
300,
movies.
which I remember seeing in theaters. That really seemed like it came out of nowhere. And that was 454 million worldwide. This is, again, one of those time periods that we're going to miss because it's like a little movie that, not a little movie. Zack Snyder's a good movie, but $454 million. I mean, I was surprised when I saw it. I was surprised at how good it was. And now all of a sudden it's like it became a $500 million movie. I don't think that would happen. A little movie that could, so, obviously big names attached to it. I don't think we're going to make $500 million from now on.
Yeah.
A lot of other good movies this year. We'll kind of finish up with like the Oscar stuff. But again, what's really good about going back to Zodiac is I would say Zodiac sets the stage for Mindhunter, which is David Fincher's series, of course. But all of this slow, True Detective, like I feel like a lot of there's always been kind of more like slower, character-driven, long-form murder investigation, police dramas forever, right? Like forever. It's like one of the most popular genres in the history of cinema. But this movie did not do well commercially. It was $85 million on a $65 million budget, and it was nominated for Jack Squat in 2007. 0 Oscar nominations, and even the support, like it didn't win shit. But if you take a look at the Oscars year, There Will Be Blood seems to be on the list, if not like a consensus, the best movie of this millennium so far in the post-2000 age. Other like sites have done this kind of shit where they ask all of their film critics to rate and review, and There Will Be Blood tends to come up number 1. Won 2 Oscars, which is great. But the big movies this year were No Country for Old Men. I think the Coen brothers each won 4. Directing, writing, picture. And then I forget if they were like involved in editing, or they each won at least 3. You had Atonement, which was a good score. Michael Clayton is a fantastic script. You have, as we mentioned, Ratatouille is fantastic. Didn't even win Michael Giacchino Best Score. I mean, the score this year, like fucking Johnny Greenwood wasn't even nominated for There Will Be Blood. Atonement ends up winning, but you have The Kite Runner's a great score, and Michael Clayton's a great score. 3:10 to Yuma was this year. That was nominated for some shit. Juno is a little movie that could this year. I Love La Vie en Rose, as we talked about last week. I'm Not There, that very strange Bob Dylan movie, was with huge names. American Gangster was a big movie.
Yeah.
Charlie Wilson's War got Philip Seymour Hoffman in a nomination.
Man.
The Assassination of Jesse James of the Coward Robert Ford with Pitt and Casey Affleck. I mean,
shit.
Sweeney Todd this year. This was a huge fucking year. This is a huge year. And Zodiac.
Let's just put
thrown under
that
the bus.
Roger Deakins filmed Jesse James and No Country, I guess, within that previous year. That might be the most impressive year of his career.
Both those, yeah.
2 movies are
He talks about Jesse James a lot too. There Will Be Blood would end up winning
he
Best
does.
Cinematography. But even the fucking documentaries are good. Taxi to the Dark Side got Alex Gibney, one of the best documentary filmmakers of our lifetime, his
Alex
Oscar.
Gibney.
Where they're talking about the killing of an Afghan taxi driver in 2002, talking about racism post 9/11. No End in Sight comes out this year, which was about like getting us into the Iraq War and shit. It was fantastic. Operation Homecoming. Sicko with Michael Moore. Free Held comes out about pensions, and then you have the housing bubble that happens this year, which is fucking wild. I mean, it's like this is like a huge year. Once
Yeah, because
Falling Slowly comes
we're
out this
1
year.
year off financial crisis at this point.
I mean, the housing bubble burst in this year. The financial crisis would, most people would say would start the next year, but this was definitely the beginning of it. Nancy Pelosi, first female House Speaker. This is other things going on in the world. The release of the first iPhone, 2007. The release of the last Harry Potter book, Deathly Hallows, comes out in 2007. North Korea tested its nuclear bomb. The Virginia Tech shooting. Ooh. There was and then there were a million bombings all over the world. I mean, this was a fucking crazy year. This is a huge year. Protests all over the world erupted this year too. It's really wild year. Anything that you guys want to highlight? Any other movies?
Absolutely. I mean, you've already listed so many, but I think the Bourne Ultimatum did really well, and people who are into that franchise were really impressed with a lot of the fight choreography, and I think that is still referenced all the time. That big chase scene, jump across the alley.
Well, also the car crash, and that was the first time they built a camera rig that led into a car wreck stunt.
God damn! There's a few things. I feel like there's a few.
The special features on Ultimatum are amazing.
Yeah, wow. They did a few things for like the first time or in a different way. This was Gone Baby Gone's year, so Ben Affleck is introducing himself as a director to the world and really shaking things up. He'll go on to win an Academy Award within 3 years. What was that? 11? When did he win for it? Anyway,
for Argo? Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. One of my favorite small movies that I'm not a huge Neil Gaiman reader. I haven't really read anything by him, but Stardust came out this year, and that movie shook. I was like, what the hell was that? I just took a chance on it, and I loved it so much.
Some of his stuff gets so weird.
Man, it was so lovely. Grindhouse, do you want to call that out? Tarantino, nobody really talked about it. Didn't do well at the box office, but I actually think that movie
everybody talked about it in Australia, but nobody went and saw it.
Nobody went and saw it. We talked about Hot Fuzz. But that's another fantastic part of the Cornetto trilogy. Shooter, that was kind of a sleeper hit for me. I feel like a lot of my friends really, really liked that movie with Mark Wahlberg. And you guys remember that? Mm-hmm. Is that no?
No, with Wahlberg.
And then American Gangster, Ridley Scott. Again, I think maybe people thought it was going to do way more than it did, but I think that I still like that movie.
Also, the kids love Enchanted. Enchanted was the Disney movie this year.
Enchanted, come on, really fun. Superbad came out this year. It's kind of crazy. So it's just some. You're right, Jeff. This was kind of like the end of an era and the beginning of this next phase. Part of it, internationally, because of the amazing financial crisis that was happening. We were approaching the end of George Bush's time. That was such a specific war on terror kind of mindset. I think a lot of these movies reflect that, or at least somehow kind of commenting on that. This is I don't know. There's so many things, but yeah, this was a crazy year.
And Into the Wild that we didn't mention too. Into the Wild was this year.
Into the Wild.
Sean Penn.
I'm about to graduate from college. Man, this is a big
year. John, yeah. Dave, you ready for us to start our next segment, or anything else you want to add about this? You bastard.
He's ready.
All right, so that segues into Zodiac, which is about the very famous spree killings, or I guess you could just say serial killer.
Yeah,
the Zodiac killer from 1969 until 1983. Although the bulk of those happened late 60s, early 70s in the first couple of years, which doesn't spoil much to say was never solved. Technically speaking, it was never solved.
Technically speaking,
yes. The case was closed at the time the movie was being made, and it was reopened after the film came out, but probably just from pressure and attention. I bet you they got a lot of calls from people. This is going to sound crazy. This is going to sound fucking crazy. I have seen this movie a lot. I did not see this in 2007. I've probably seen it 4 or 5 times since, which is a lot for an almost 3-hour movie. It's like a 2-hour and 40-minute movie. I watched it during the pandemic. It was great. I didn't know that Jake Gyllenhaal played the author. That's how fucking dumb I was. Or at least I just trusted David Fincher so much with this that Jake Gyllenhaal plays the author of the book Zodiac. That he has a writing credit, but mostly just as the author of this book. And then James Vanderbilt, this is a really good movie, but this guy would go on to write Independence Day Resurgence. So, it's so sometimes you really start to sell out after.
I almost want to buzz you just for mentioning that piece of shit in this show.
I mean, if he created the Hive theory, not great for Zodiac's legacy. College football playoffs are wrapping up this year, and it's sometimes you want the teams that you've beat to do really well after you've beat them. Anyway, moving on. The cast is...
I don't know what you just said, but fuck it.
Our sports fans know, because right now, Alabama, Texas, Florida State, all these teams are like, well, what the fuck? What do we do while they're waiting to see who's going to be in the college football playoffs? Anyway, Listen to this fucking cast.
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr. the year before Iron Man. This is back when Robert Downey Jr. Now, granted, he was in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and he like Charlie Bartlett was like a nice little sleeper movie. But the guy was also, and he's Good Night, Good Luck with Clooney, but he's also in The Shaggy Dog. So he's not exactly like A+ list Robert Downey Jr. here.
He's
I
climbing
feel
back.
like
He's
this was
coming back. Yeah.
this was a rehearsal for Tony Stark in my book.
I mean, you watch this and you're like, if you don't know, you probably think this is after Tony Stark because it's like he's so obviously a fucking movie star. You know? Anyway, he's so great. Jake Gyllenhaal.
Brilliant.
Mark Ruffalo is incredible in this movie. Anthony Edwards, Top Gun, let's go. And then a lot of that guy actors. You got John Carroll Lynch, who you might know from Fargo. You've got, of course, Brian Cox being an egotistical person, which is, you know, on brand. You've got a lot of that guy actors like John Lacey and Bob Stevenson, if you know you're that guy actors. You've got fucking Chloë Sevigny in this. You got Dermot Mulroney. You've got just, again, a million people that you just are like, holy shit. I totally recognize that person. And of course, directed by David Fincher. They filmed it mostly in 2005, came out at the early March, which is a very strange time to come out to. Probably didn't help this movie. March of 2007.
Wow. That probably didn't help it.
That probably didn't help it. You know, a lot of walk and talks. It's a period piece. It's fucking great. And I'm going to read the IMDb description. I'm going to kick it off to you guys. Tell me what you think, what you feel, having seen your rewatch of Zodiac this week. Between 1968, I was off a year. Between 1968 and 1983, a San Francisco cartoonist becomes an amateur detective obsessed with tracking down the Zodiac killer, an unidentified individual who terrorizes Northern California with a killing spree. What'd you guys think? What'd you guys feel? Who wants to go first?
Dave, what'd you think, man? Did you see this in the theaters? I'm just curious. I was trying to remember if I saw it in the theaters.
The first time I saw this was on the back of an airline seat traveling across the Pacific, just as the
David
filmmaker
Fincher,
intended.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You heard it right.
Just as you intended it to be watched. Sorry,
I buzzed Dave.
It was like...
Did you fall asleep during? No offense to the movie, but you know,
it was 3 o'clock in the morning technically because I just put movies on and watched them, and I was like, I always wanted to give it a look, and I put it on.
Filmed in 239, nice and wide.
Yeah, nice and wide on that little airport seat, and I fell asleep a couple of times, and you know, I just wrote it off. I'm like, whatever. I watched that movie. Okay, didn't really give it much attention. What a fucking crime that was. I rewatched it today, and it is one of the best edited, best shot things I've seen in a long time. Like it, even and the story is compelling. Everything is fucking amazing in this movie. Like I did it an absolute disservice. So yeah, everyone just stop watching shit on airplanes. Talk to your neighbors or something. You know.
Yeah.
This is for you back then.
Back me then deserved it.
I guess we should mention that Fincher just had another killer movie come out recently that I believe you saw, John. I don't know if you saw this yet, Dave, which is, of course, The Killer with Michael Fassbender. Different format, of course, but from the killer's point of view. But, you know, and Mindhunter, of course. This guy spent a lot of time talking to or studying serial killers.
Given that he's made one of the best movies that's also a cautionary tale about obsession, he should maybe settle down and check himself.
No, don't do that. Have your therapy on screen, please, David Fincher. Dude, I could not agree more. I'm sure I saw this in the theater. I just can't imagine I missed one of these kinds of movies back then. I saw fucking everything.
I mean, from the numbers, like a lot of them did.
Even in college, we would have had to drive. That's the only thing is we would have had to go.
Yeah, but man, I feel like I still saw everything. But like you, I've definitely this has been one of my faves to go back to. It's a real monster and it's a big one. And it's one of those that's so long that I try not to go back to it too often because I like to forget. And it's also long and so many, when we'll talk about this, the passage of time is so crazy and the way they deal with that I always forget enough. So it really is fun to watch it. It's a very, very rewatchable movie. I think is what I would like. One of the strongest things I would like people to take away from this. Maybe some of the movies you hear us talking about, you don't know if you want to revisit. This one it's surprising enough. There's no way you remember the timeline. There's no way. So just go back and enjoy yourself. I just wanted to point out that sometimes we think of David Fincher as you might forget about The Game and you might forget about Panic Room. This is his 6th feature film. He made Alien 3 pretty early in 92, and then I think a lot of people think of 7 as his real first feature. And then 4 more, before we get to this. So it is kind of funny.
And there's nothing wrong with Alien 3 except for the script he was forced to use.
I think a lot of people feel that way, man. That one's, there's some really memorable stuff in Alien 3. So I just to point out, like, this is his second serial killer film, which I think he eventually kind of became really known for, and being kind of a real strong voice of bringing that back to mass entertainment in a very refined, artistic way. Like, dude, he's somebody that I hope people aren't taking for granted, because he's just one of the best filmmakers of all time, and that just happens to be his favorite subject matter.
I am so pissed that he drifted away from Mindhunters just to the point where they introduced Manson.
Yeah, I can't believe we didn't get another season.
Not only was that filmed fantastically, the guy playing Manson was spectacular.
He was awesome. He was great.
It wasn't his fault. He just wanted the amount of money he thought it would take to actually do it well, and they said no.
Yeah.
So this is his third movie. I would feel comfortable saying, so Alien 7, The Game, Fight Club, Panic Room, Zodiac. I would feel comfortable saying this is definitely the second serial killer movie.
But does the Social Network count? Because they did ignore all the Myanmar stuff.
What are you talking about?
Come on, how did that not land? Come on.
I'm saying leading up to this, not after that. Come on.
Okay, right, sorry.
In sequential order, I would say this is his third movie really dealing with mental illness, and not just from Zodiac.
No,
like not even because of Zodiac. It's a lot of other people. It's all the other people who get so wrapped up and obsessed dealing with him, and we see it expressed in Robert Downey's alcoholism and drug abuse. We see it the straight-laced Redgrave, whatever Jake Gyllenhaal's author's name is. In his obsession that leads him down a rabbit hole. No drugs or alcohol involved in there. So we just get to see all these different expressions of how this person...
Robert Graysmith.
Graysmith, thank you. How somebody's like obsession with any kind of subject matter can actually lead to the deconstruction of their psyche, which for me, that's what this movie is. It is two things. It is an absolute masterpiece of character study of that. Which is hard to do because it happens across a bunch of different characters. And the other thing that it is like, what I was most impressed rewatching last night was the timeline, the storytelling, literally a director's job. I know I say these things all the time. There are a few things that only directors are really in charge of. And one thing that they and their editor are almost solely in charge of is making sure the story makes sense. And when you're telling a story over this amount of time, where like every other scene, you have to tell people what time and date it is. That's fucking hard to make people stay emotionally engaged to what is happening, so that it's not just intellectual and you're just thinking. And I think this movie still has a lot of tension and emotional depth.
Like you said at the beginning that it's a slower film, and I disagree. This actually moves at a fantastic pace, and it changes time so many times, but you never once don't know where you are, because they do it in such a controlled way that like you instantly know what time period you're in.
They do the paranormal activity speed up really well.
Dude, that fast transition of the building being built, the show.
That's unbelievable time lapse. Oh my God.
I am stealing that at some point in my career, I'm sure.
And also, how did San Francisco build that in a year? Good for you, San Francisco. That was really impressive. It just said 1 year later. I was like, what? Yeah. How did they build that building in a year?
Somebody bribed someone for permits.
The last thing, and I'll shut up after this because I want to hear what you say, Jeff. But I think the last thing that I was very, very aware of, I'm like obsessed with Fincher. I have brought in multiple of his scenes in different movies to like analyze them in different classes over the few years. Like I think about him all the time. Maybe I'm going out on a limb here, and maybe you guys would disagree, but I was very aware this time that because he's doing those other things, and there's so much that goes into that, I almost felt a very successful restraint in his filmmaking. Like when we were in a certain scene and sequence, it almost like he really tried to minimize some of his like filmmaking-y, like the David Fincher-y kind of moves and transitions and lots of coverage shots that lead into each other. It almost felt restrained in a fucking beautiful way. And I feel like that was just like, it was so noticeable. It was still very David Fincher and tasteful, but yeah.
No, I know what you're talking about. I feel like a lot of this was definitely made in the edit. But also like the cinematography is so good, it looks like fucking math was involved. Like every single shot is symmetrically placed, and it's almost like he went away from the frantic and just went totally calm and collected. It's almost like you're the eye of the killer watching them progress through this investigation.
I feel like this comes up.
The filmmaker still. Sorry, Jeff. I was just saying this last thing. Yeah. The filmmaker, not the characters. This is not a subjective character study, but the filmmaking for David Fincher, for me, always feels subjective. He never feels like he's observational. I always feel like he never covers a scene in these 6 wide shots and then we just edit it together. No. This section is covered with these 2 shots, and this section of the scene is covered with these 3 shots. And I don't know. So he still nailed it, but I felt anyway. What do you think, Jeff?
I think this comes up a lot in those, they're on Instagram and stuff, but like where people do like color, like the importance of color in movie, and then just like composites and symmetry that you'll see like people like use like frames from different movies about certain symmetry and stuff. I feel like this movie comes up a lot. I think it's great we chose this in this specific format, which is the random year generator, because this is one of those movies that is basically on all the things we talked about with 2007. It is so distinctly 2007, even though nothing about this movie seems 2007. Nothing about this movie needs to be seen in 2007. So like if I were to say something like Everything Everywhere All at Once is such a 2022 film. It's such a 2022 film. You needed to see it that year. You needed to be a part of it that year. And of course it's going to rewatch well, but that is the year for that movie.
Yeah.
This movie didn't need, so like I can see it getting swallowed alive by these other movies, but at the same time, I think this is the most rewatchable movie out of that whole year, with the exception of like maybe Ratatouille, which for obvious reasons, right? Enchanted, if that's something that you're into, but like
I've seen Zodiac more than I've seen both those movies.
Fair, yeah. So which again, it's not short. Not to say it's slow or fast or anything, but it's not a short movie, and we know the outcome. We know ahead of time that this is an open case, right? So what about this makes it so rewatchable? Because I love Mindhunter, but I don't want to rewatch it. It's a little bit longer, I suppose. But there's just something about this movie that we're looking for more. We're looking for more things in there, and it's such a period piece too. So it's just fucking fascinating.
It passes on a little bit of the compulsion on the watch, because by the time we were 3/4 of the way through, I was researching this stuff, and I don't do research. What the fuck are you talking about? I'm looking these things up, and then I'm like looking for more because I had the bug, and that's the thing, and it kind of passes on his obsession.
You said it at the very top of the show, and your little joke that you always say something that kind of alludes to the movie when we take our shot. Is this the first movie that actually made a point of acknowledging the true crime approach to crime solving and not the detective story?
I think there was some Capote stuff earlier.
There are like Capote movies, and In True Blood was made earlier. The movie Capote was not made earlier, but this is the first time that
Capote came up for this. Capote came up for this.
But even then, it's still like Capote was like writing I don't think Capote was trying to solve that murder. That was not the intent of him writing that book.
No. True.
You know what I mean?
True.
Whereas so that's why I think what you're saying, Dave, it does feel like it's passed on. And this opened a fucking gate to people feeling like,
and funny because
I can be a part of this.
Oliver Stone wasn't trying to solve murders per se, but you could tell by the end of JFK, by the end of Born on the 4th of July, by the end of Platoon, that director knew exactly what the fuck he wanted you to think and feel by the end of it, to the point where like after JFK, you just assumed that was the truth. Whereas this, it's like, they want you to leave thinking that killer was the killer, but at the same time, it acknowledges it might not be. And he does it in a way that's also like not. I didn't think David Fincher was telling me that is who he thinks the killer is.
Because he totally discredited the protagonist in the last 20 minutes of the movie.
It's true.
But I'm saying literally because he's our protagonist, and they did an hour and 15 minutes goes by before he starts actually getting obsessed.
True.
Yeah.
True.
You know what I mean? Like
true.
It does feel like it's a.
I didn't realize he was the protagonist
story.
until an hour and 15 minutes in. To be honest.
Exactly.
I don't think he was.
Yeah, so I feel like that's something.
And Fincher does this a lot, and you guys are the filmmakers here, but I know he does this a lot with changing the way he shapes and frames scenes, where he'll cross line, he'll do whatever it takes, so that all of a sudden he'll have a new lead in the same scene. He won't tip his hat, and then he'll like choose beats and then literally restructure the entire way he'll stage a scene and stage the camera to make new people have different power and motives and stuff that other filmmakers might not do. I don't know. But,
well, it's funny.
No,
like
totally
it's an ensemble cast until that point, about halfway through, where the rest of the cast drops off and Gyllenhaal becomes the main protagonist.
Yeah,
through his obsession. And you'll notice right at that point, he has a wardrobe change. Up until that point, he's wearing the shirt, like the good shirts and the business attire and stuff. And then the second he goes to see Robert Downey Jr. in his house, he's got the puffy parka on, and from that point on, he's wearing like shoddier clothes, and he starts to disintegrate a little bit in his appearance.
The true crime costume,
right? Yeah,
yeah, as opposed to the cartoonist.
Yeah,
costume.
Everybody on Only Murders is wearing it now.
It's a long movie. It's 2:37. I agree with you, Dave. Like, I think this is super easy watch. I think it's edited really well. But I think in most versions of this movie, most studios would have greenlit, most writers would have said, let's cut. Most people would have yada, yada, yada that first hour and 15, and they just would have used as exposition that these detectives, these cops, and the reporters who were assigned to the case had lost interest by then. But he chose to tell their story so that you would feel like Jake Gyllenhaal by your midpoint.
But also,
I think that literally the midpoint of this movie is the first time that they visit Arthur Lee Miller.
Oh yeah,
that is Arthur Lee Ramsey. What's his last name? Arthur Lee.
Not Arthur Miller.
Yeah.
Not Arthur Miller. Arthur Lee. God damn it, whatever his name is. And I literally checked.
Arthur Lee. I was like, Allen.
Okay, yeah, I paused and I was like, that felt like a midpoint. Like this feels like the turn. Like they're about to find something. And it was about an hour and 15 in.
Yeah.
And I was like,
halfway,
oh my God damn. We're not even in Jake's story yet. But it delivered so much because of that. I feel like by the time you start making that turn, you actually get to choose a little bit too. I think part of me felt like Robert Downey in that speech about just give it up. It was 4 years ago. This many people have died since then. Like you have to stop. There's no real reason for us to care anymore.
Yeah.
And you get this almost empty, and I mean that with respect because they pull it off and they use it, but this almost empty thesis statement for the rest of the movie when Jake Gyllenhaal literally just responds and says, you're wrong. It does matter. And we're just going off of that. The entire movie is based off of him just believing, and it leads into this whole sequence where at the end of it, he just gets to look his wife in the eye and say, I have to look in his eye and I have to know it's him.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say.
Which makes that scene later such a great payoff.
It's such a great payoff.
Oh my God almighty. That is when I think of this movie, that's the snapshot that I think of. Can I help you? No. Just the look. That's a perfect example of restrained filmmaking.
Yeah.
There's two shots in that store. We track in with Jake and we have his point of view track that eventually reveals Arthur Lee, and it just goes back and forth and he's out of there. Oh my God.
Yeah.
2 shots. We don't punch in for close-ups.
Nope.
We don't move around the head. We don't get any OTSs or anything. It's not necessary. There's one point of that scene, also, and it's just so they can look at each other.
Little things like the first fucking line in the movie with Gyllenhaal, like his first interaction was with the little kid, and it's such a perfectly natural. It's almost like you get that cat in the window moment, or the save the cat moment. Sorry, where it's like you have to do something nice. The interaction with the kid sets it up perfectly without being obvious at all. It's like, don't forget to rinse, and the kid's like, I swallowed it, and he's like, why? And the kid's like, it was minty.
Do that, buddy.
Yeah, it was minty. So it was such a natural reaction between like father son. It was just sold the character completely
for me. Because so again, as I was kind of mentioning before, I don't know what it is when I rewatch this movie. And it's not just like, well, what is David Fincher going to show me? But I just assume that I'm going to see more. I'm assuming there's going to be things. I just, in a way that even other movies that I rewatch,
something someone missed.
I don't know what I'm looking. It's a fascination where like I need to go back. We need to go back. And it could be something like not dumb but trivial, like the Dirty Harry poster, which of course I see every time. But now I'm like, it matters more this time when I see it behind Mark Ruffalo with Jake, where the two of them are there, and then they mention that line later, which is that's not brilliant. That doesn't make David Fincher a brilliant filmmaker or anything like that. But this is my favorite Mark Ruffalo performance. This is my favorite Jake Gyllenhaal performance, and it's. And we talked about Downey. It's like the explosion of Downey. It's like he didn't need this role to explode, but it's like everything about they're underplaying everything and they're exploding. Just watching Mark Ruffalo lean back in his chair with those old phone sliding off his ear and into like the crook of his neck while he has the holster that looks like overalls. He's got the mutton chop kind of thing going on with the hair. And I'm like, this is such a fucking period piece, but it doesn't even look like anybody's trying to make it a period. Every single thing about this movie feels compelling. And I actually love, there's some critic wrote something like Fincher focused on the anxiety inducing drama of finding a serial killer.
Yeah. There's only one time I noticed the period,
I'm anxious.
That was when they had an interior shot in the car. And I'm like, oh man, nobody does car interiors like the 60s.
That was awesome. Yeah. Also, and Angela, this is
also like just the color bounce off that car got me.
Angela popped in like a half an hour in, and I caught her up as quickly as I could. The first thing she said is, "Oh my God, those phones, the phones." are ringing
Yeah.
constantly.
Yeah.
And she's like,
I miss it so much.
And she's like, she's like, I know it's a busy office, but they're doing something. And I was like, holy shit, you're right. It's like one of the first things. It's just these phones are ringing nonstop, and it just drives you nuts. It makes you want to fucking figure this out so much to make it all stop.
He pays a ridiculous amount of attention to sound design.
It's the phones are
all of it.
perfect.
I think he's an obsessive technical director. Let's just point out, since I wanted to talk about the production design, the setting, all that. This is the first time that I didn't know this, so I just looked it up. First time he collaborated with his production designer, Donald Graham Burt, who has gone on to do pretty much every movie that he's made since then. But this is the first time they've worked together.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you?
This was awesome.
I think this might be, let's list off some others if I can't think of any others, but we have Vertigo, we have Bullet, we have Dirty Harry, we have Last Man in San Francisco, we have this. I mean, this is absolutely, like, nobody seems to have ever missed with San Francisco. Those are all pretty awesome, like well-made movies.
Inside
like
Out,
San Fran.
like we talked about before.
Inside Out. This is, I completely agree. There was almost an ease to the way that they showed the period. It didn't feel like it was being shoved down your throat. And I'll even say that with a
Full House. Sorry, never mind.
Intentional. Yeah, you just listen. A very intentional, immersive, nostalgic cold open of like, we're in the 60s around the Northern California era, like above San Fran. Like everything about that way that first sequence is shot, with the music on the radio, the kind of car they're in, going past that restaurant, being like, let's go somewhere private. Like it almost feels like cheesy in a sense that he's like showing it that way, but it still had a believability to it. It didn't feel like it was like, we're making a period movie. You know what I mean?
That fucking kid in that car as well gave me PTSD from my teen years because I was as clueless as he was.
The kid is in Jake's kid? That kid.
Not about the killing.
Yeah, when they pulled up at Lover's Lane, he's like, what are we here for? I'm like, oh, you
all these
fucking
things.
idiot.
Well, then the lady later. I mean, it's like, these things are happening. And I think another thing that Fincher, and maybe because he had done not just Fight Club, but Seven and others, how little time of this movie, now that we've rewatched it, it's 2 hours and 40 minutes, is the crimes. Actually witnessing the crimes as an audience member. What is it? 5-6 minutes total?
That's actually
they're haunting.
They only did the crime. They only showed the crimes there were survivors for, so that they could have the story 100% accurate of what happened. That was the only crimes they showed, were those two that there were survivors.
Except for the taxi driver. They showed that. Other than that,
because they were witnesses.
Yeah.
Because
they were witnesses for that.
How scary is the lake scene? That murder is so disturbing.
Yeah,
dude, I never really thought about what multiple stab wounds means until this movie showed me in a pristine lake setting exactly what fucking multiple stab wounds means.
Is that the most realistic stabbing scene you've ever seen? Like the build up to this is terrifying. There's a man coming over here. He's coming our way. Like that's so scary that you don't really see him very well. Like that's terrifying. But the actual look, like the actual stabs, how do they do that? That looks so fucking real. Yeah, that was a real movie magic moment where I was like, whoa.
And the doomed if you do, doomed if you don't. It's like our generation, probably not our generation, the people younger than us probably sit there and be like, why would you
let him tie you up?
Yeah. And it's like, of course you do. You just, I don't, what else the fuck? It's damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's horrible. The woman with the baby, you can't believe she survived. I mean, it's like, but again, the time, how many seconds was that? We're talking about that. It was what, 5 seconds total of those stabbings? The shooting of I forget his name, that kid that's in One Tree Hill. It was like
I mean, it was a good 5-minute scene in total, but yeah.
Oh, he really gave us a scare. And then the music, of course, he's better at needle drops than you don't even notice they're needle drops, Fincher. Like, God, he's so good at incorporating the music.
Jeff, you said, sorry.
No, go ahead. No, that's it. I can't believe how little we talk about the crime, but of course we remember them. We don't need to see 37 murders. It's like we those 3 are enough. It's like, I get it. This guy's fucked up in the head and he's brilliant. He's a brilliant killer. This guy's great. Oh my God, I can't believe the hearts just came out.
Oh, look what you did.
You guys see our YouTube, people.
Visually.
You're really going to turn that off.
And I know this seems obvious, but like you're talking about how this is the point of the movie, isn't it? That like the murders matter. Of course they matter. But the ripple effect, the echo, the whatever metaphor you want to use of what this man did to that area of California is what is the movie. And how the different interpretations of that and the pursuit of trying to catch him. But I just do want to back up. You said this is, and I agree, they're unbelievable. Like, it's easy to take them for granted because it feels like an ensemble piece. The performances coming out of Downey and Ruffalo.
Yeah. But even Anthony Edwards, who knows his role so fucking well. Anthony Edwards, way to show up.
Anthony, I mean, he's always so good.
Yeah.
I love ER. He was so good on ER. So whenever he would pop up in movies, I always would get excited. That scene in the diner when Ruffalo comes in, he's like, "What is that, BLT?" You know, what he's like, "You can have my fries," and he walks out. They just knew each other so well. But I did want to ask you, like, specifically why Ruffalo is perfect in this. But is this really your favorite Ruffalo?
100%.
He's so
more
good
than Spotlight.
In all of his supporting roles.
Of course.
Yeah.
Because he's just not acting in this movie. And I'm not saying he is in the other movies, but he's so obviously not acting that when you see even the small things, usually it's the small things, not that I try to, target things, but the look on his fucking face when the woman asks, "Do you ever suspect that Peter Avery, Robert Downey Jr.'s character, is the Zodiac killer?" And you look at his face and he goes, "All the time." That look on his face is brilliant. His first interaction with the lamp, it's honestly, the lamp thing's cheesy. It's fucking cheesy, especially if you've seen it multiple times. I need to show you the lamp, but he does it so perfectly and simply. The way he looks at Anthony Edwards, he goes, "It's your birthday. All right. Hey, it's your birthday." And then he's like, "So what do you want, the car or the body?" And he goes, "Well, it's your birthday. I'll take the body." All right. It's like everything about it is so straight. And then, of course, when he sees Jake Gyllenhaal later and you can see he's mad, and it's like the texture. It's so clear. It's so perfect and so specific. And he doesn't seem like he's doing anything. It's hard to do. And again, back to literally just the phone on his chin. It's like he's a fucking model. Like it's like he's right out of the time period. I can't believe it's a period piece because he doesn't make it seem. It's unbelievable how simple it seems. He makes it look too easy. And even Jake always looks like he's playing at it a little bit. But like Mark, this is I think just the most naturalistic. And I can't believe it's a period piece. I can't believe how natural it is while being a period piece.
They made this movie for 65, apparently, IMDb. I'm just looking at that number, 65 mil. So for that period of time, we hadn't really gotten into crazy movies between 100 and 200 as casually. But I would still call this like a mid-budget movie, the higher end of a mid-budget movie. And a lot of that money probably went to that cast. There were some pretty big names.
But they also probably didn't need to get huge numbers. Downey probably didn't.
I would imagine a fair portion of it
went
to like invisible effects too.
I think so too. I actually think it went to background. Yeah. I think I don't know if it all went to the cast. I mean, I'm sure a lot because it's a huge cast, but
probably not. No, maybe without that cast, it probably would have been a true mid-budget movie.
I bet you a bunch of people made like $1 million or a couple million, and it added up. But like, I don't think anybody made 10.
It's a celebration though of like this is what again, we've had this conversation a gazillion times. There's still amazing adult drama work on stream. I'm not saying there's not, but this is the kind of movie that I'm concerned is being totally lost, where you get a group of people like that who are well known, like they are movie stars to a certain degree. We haven't had, it's pre-Iron Man, but like everybody who had been old enough to know who Robert Downey Jr. was at that point knew where he came from. He was a movie star before he got into rehab and everything. So I feel like this is still a movie with 3 movie stars in it. And none of them were really the lead. In a sense, Jake eventually takes it to the finish line, but I don't even know if I feel comfortable saying he is the lead in this movie.
Right.
There's a lot of this. It's really an ensemble effort, and then he has the bulk of the last third. I just feel like that kind of movie is it's getting harder and harder to see, and it feels like it's getting harder and harder to produce.
I feel like we've spoken about a few of them over the last couple of years, so I don't know if they're disappearing, but yeah, you're right. They're probably getting harder to sell.
Well, I mean,
everybody just wants profit. Everyone,
I just hope, I mean, Dave used to work in the corporate world. Dave used to work in the corporate world more, but like, I just think being able to get a return on your investment that's not just based on a stock price. It's like, the fact that Netflix is like, we don't want it to come out in theaters. And it's like, okay, but I could get, I don't know, it's just harder to justify a $100 million budget for like The King with Timothée Chalamet, whereas it's like for this movie, it's like, well, you're going to make your money back. Like, even if you're going to get it back, you'll get it back. You're going to get that 65.
You know what makes me sad?
Well, you're going to make double your budget now because marketing's out of control.
Yeah, but that's not their fault. The marketing,
I'm not going to kiss and tell, but I've heard multiple like horse's mouth people talk to us over the past few years now. Sure. that have said that have literally referenced a movie that did not do super well at the box office. So that could be a range of didn't make tons of money, but still made its budget back, or just, about made its budget or a little bit less. That is objectively like a cult classic and a wonderful movie. Everybody loves it. Maybe it won some awards. And just the culture here, they talk about it as though it was a failure.
Yeah.
Like they'll acknowledge, like, yeah, I'm glad people liked it, but that wasn't one of my successes. And it's just a shame because I think there is still a bottom line that people think about. Whereas most movie fans have no idea and don't care about how much money it made. They just love watching that movie.
Well, hopefully, because
I don't know.
I don't think people back in the day would be like, well, at least it makes TriStar look good that they make good movies. Like, I don't think people really cared about that as much. But nowadays, I do think that Netflix would care that it's like, well, they want to be like what we thought HBO and Max was before this whole fucking debacle with the corporate takeover and then the slashing of brands and shit. But like, and now Succession's going to get all these Emmys. I still think that these streaming platforms, they do want to be the platform that has the good shit, not just the stuff that everybody watches, but HBO wants to be the good network. They want to be the one that wins. And so it's like, if this movie is on HBO as a package deal with a company that's going to release it in theaters for 2 weeks, because people just need shit to do in the theaters. They want to go, and it's a good way of making your money back. And Netflix has it ready to go, and they are essentially, in this case, Dave, the distributor, so that they don't have to, so that like, if TriStar, I know they don't exist anymore, if TriStar only makes its money back, which is technically a failure because nobody gives a fuck about TriStar, Netflix is there as the distributor to sit there and be like, well, we want good shit because that's worth it for something for us. So I do think there is a way of bringing these two worlds together.
I think so, for sure. Absolutely. There was at one point, they could do it again. It's really just, anyway. I mentioned a couple of my absolute favorite scenes, the lakeside and Jake's final seeing him in the hardware store. Were there any other? The basement scene? Holy shit.
Why don't places in San Francisco, because San Francisco's elevated, why don't they have fucking basements in San Francisco?
Earthquakes,
LA, I get.
dude.
What'd you say, Dave?
Earthquakes.
But
earthquakes. That's why they're not in California.
Why does it compress?
Goes against code.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, pancaking.
The whole Aqua Velva scene.
The interrogation scene for me.
The interrogation by far. You're right. And that is the midway point. So that is like an early climax.
Ooh. That is straight out of, you see where the Manhunter scenes came from.
Yeah.
Like, well, it's like, it feels
the
exactly
three,
like those.
Those three pairs of eyeballs on him when he's walking as the audience, because they're kind of looking at you.
But it's like also like every shot, every edit, every performance, he shows you exactly what you need to see to draw the assumptions they want you to make, which is basically the mindset that the writer of the book was in at that point. That and when Brian Cox delivers that focused performance straight down the barrel of the camera when he's talking directly to Zodiac.
Yeah.
Like that was a really powerful performance. You really got an impression of exactly how far this guy would go to insert himself into this.
I also love when Brian Cox says, wow, you really know how to throw a secret meeting. And there's just helicopters fucking flying.
Helicopters.
Those scenes are great. Yeah.
Real fast, the interrogation scene, I totally agree. Like the looks on their faces. I think my favorite moment in that is, how do you say his name? Elias Koteas? Elias. I just know him as
Casey Jones.
Casey Jones in Ninja Turtles, of course. Yeah, I mean, he will forever be Casey Jones to me. But in the interrogation scene, when I can't remember what Lee says, but when he's like, "Oh, and you're probably thinking about the bloody knives that I killed some chickens that day," and he just leans forward and he goes, "What?"
Yeah, right.
They're already clocking all these things, and they think like, "Oh my god, this is crazy." And then he just starts talking about how he had gone to the lake that day, slaughtered chickens, and that's why he had all these bloody knives in his car. Yeah. He's like, "What?"
Yeah, it's just
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did.
All their looks.
He literally said exactly what you were thinking at the time. It was great.
And just their looks when he was like, well, of course I was in that area during the times of the killings. I love the auto races. And it's like, dude.
Auto races.
You know what? I never understood until this rewatch why you ask these obvious questions early. I always thought you would like coax and wine and dine, the whole good cop, bad cop thing that gets overplayed in media. But it's like, we're observing the Zodiac killers. Where were you on this date? do you like these things? And it's like you're waiting for them to lose it. You're waiting for them to spike, to get nervous, to get caught, etc. And I know that because I was, as the audience member, I'm sitting there spiking. They're like, do you like
Jeff was the Zodiac killer?
Well, I know. I'm fucking terrified. It's horrifying.
Little embryo running around Northern California.
That whole entire scene was done brilliantly. I think another important scene, apart from the early Ruffalo Edwards scenes, because that becomes the cop element as opposed to the newspaper element. But I think one thing that's very important is that first the Aqua Velva scene where Jake's drinking the drink,
God.
and Robert, because that's the time where Downey Jr. and Jake become. Downey is no longer the egotistical, like superior, like the guy who fucks, and then Jake Gyllenhaal is like the one he's not like the nerd. He's gonna just copy off of his test to use like high school tropes, right? Which is basically what they were at first. And he's basically, and of course, Angela's like, "What is that drink? It's so dumb, and it's so blue." In this like dark bar, this drink is glowing light blue, and of course, Downey, the way he asks what that drink was, like in the middle of it, it's so fucking funny.
This can no longer be ignored. What the fuck?
Exactly.
When just the look, the cut on his look where he takes a sip.
Yeah. And then he goes, don't knock it. He goes, don't knock it till you try it. And Downey Jr., he takes that second and you can see he wants to knock it. And he's like, there's no way that I'm just going to try it. He's like, and then he tries it. He says, what the hell? And he tries it.
It's not just that. Of course, it's the way he tries it too. Like most people will just take a tentative sip. No, he takes a mouthful.
He also takes an enormous cigarette rip. Like, I can't believe I'm about to fucking do this. And he takes a mouthful of it. You're right. I thought he was going to chug it. And then all of a sudden it cuts to 4 drinks later. And then they're having a real conversation as equals. So they take this dumb idea of, I'm not drinking tonight. Oh my God, we've had 4 drinks, right? Trope. They take this idea of, what are you drinking? This is so stupid. All of a sudden there's drinks like tipped over. They're having so many and they're equals. What is in this for you, Jake Gyllenhaal? This is great business for everyone except for you, which of course is hilarious because he's the author of the book, which again, I wish I didn't know, but oh, well, here I am spoiling it for anybody who's still listening. He doesn't know this movie. And then he says, and then Jake Gyllenhaal goes, what do you mean good business? He doesn't even get it. Yeah. He doesn't even get that this case is great for everybody. He just wants to solve it. He just wants to be a part of it. He wants to help. It's wild. It's a great scene.
So did you guys find the article where they apparently found a DNA match a couple of years ago?
And it wasn't.
And it's a guy called Gary Francis Post who was in the service, and they connected him due to a partial DNA on a firearm he gave away just before he died.
Wow.
And no one's gone too far down that rabbit hole, but I'm like, if that's true, then this guy was completely off the radar. He didn't even come up in this movie. Like, he was never really associated with it, but he turns out he was in the locations, and yeah.
It's possible.
And it was partial
that's funny,
DNA.
Because I think I saw like a blurb on that article, and the only real thing I took away from it was that Lee was like exonerated because of it. And I don't think I even like followed up enough to see if they were able to charge someone with it. I thought it was more of just like they were able to prove that it wasn't his DNA.
Yeah. To be honest,
Wow.
I mean, it does really look like it was like Lee. Because
Lee.
And yeah, the fact that he dies 24 hours before they're going to arrest him.
That is. Yeah. I mean,
that is the heart attack thing.
Yeah.
Or it could have been a death in the Nile thing where there were.
Yeah. Okay. Another one. All right. Another one of my favorite scenes. And it's of course, it's a good scene. You know, you're kind of waiting for them to finally really talk to each other. When Jake goes to Mark's house in the middle of the night, the rain is banging. It's great. I'm going to kill him. Yeah. But when he gets him out of there, drags him out of bed, and they're going to have a midnight breakfast at the diner, and Jake's walking him through all of his findings. And they really have a classic lead up to him explaining what he's learned, and Mark is comparing what he's learned, and Jake finally makes the discovery that was his birthday. He did make a mistake. He admitted that it was his birthday to Brian Cox's housekeeper. And he was like, that's the point, and then blah, blah, blah. So the look on Mark's face is great. But it's the moment after that is so good, where Jake sits down and he's like, so do it. And he's like, I can't prove any of that. It's circumstantial. And Jake's like, then what are we going to do? And Mark says, finish your book.
Yeah.
Because that is the point. That sometimes
I saw it on television.
It's more important for us I saw it on television, and sometimes it's going to be less with cases like this. I guess I'm not a cop, but it is going to be less about there are things that we can't do. It doesn't mean the truth can't come out.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean we can't all know that there's some closure to this.
There were several cases of
I thought that was
before
so
that where
good.
he was like, I can't tell you that, but this person can.
That was good the first time.
And
Yeah,
stuff
I
like
mean,
that.
I can't
there
say
were
that
a lot of those like
Yeah.
but I just loved that. I thought that was so interesting that they gave that line to Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah.
Finish your book. The intention behind that.
The police,
he had that wonderful smirk like this. He realized I literally have no agency left. And it's the struggle of my life. I've gone insane over this for years now, and I'm never going to be able to solve this problem. Oh God, it was so beautiful. It was so charming. It was God.
One last thing I'll finish up on is there's one quick throwaway line that's not even done by a major character. They're on a plane when they're on the plane and they're on the plane together, and the camera's just pulling down the aisle and you're getting the overhead thing, and it's like, everyone please remember smoking in the last 6 aisles of the plane only. And I'm like, that is a lasting testament to how fundamentally stupid humanity is.
And to who wants to be in the row right in front of the smoking section,
you can only smoke in the back 6 rows, like that, because it's going to stay
Downey
there.
Was sitting in the back.
Yeah.
He was walking to the back.
Also, how spacious were those aisles?
Yeah.
I was talking about Angela. Yeah. I love.
And you called it out at the beginning. Sorry, go ahead.
Just a couple other final things is I love Jake Gyllenhaal, like, obviously wants to get out. These carrots are perfect, and his wife is like, just go, and he just like gets up and runs away. and then when he goes to Mark Ruffalo and he's like, hey, we met at the movies once, and Mark Ruffalo goes, it must have been magical.
It must have been magical. God, that's so really good. You can't,
and also,
you fucking.
I love. So I'm an adult Negro man who also happens to be a stocky, stout Caucasian with Mark Ruffalo because they get the dueling.
Before we change the description.
And it's your birthday. I'll take the body. I mean, there's just, okay. Yeah.
He has a lot of gems. I mean, it's almost like 40s, 50s style screenwriting.
It's your birthday. I'll take the body. It's so good.
But he made it real. He made it believable. It wasn't just a banter. John Carroll Lynch, it's just the last thing I'll mention. I think he's really terrifying in this movie.
Horrifying.
And yet, just a few years before, he was 1,000% the safest husband in America. He plays the husband in Fargo. Right? He's like, he's the opposite. So I just wanted to give it up for him, give it up for the casting team to put him in this role, because I absolutely was terrified of him and wasn't really anything else. I didn't really have any doubt in my mind that he was capable of it. But he's also the guy. I love you, Georgie. You know, we're so lucky. You know, sitting in bed with her. I'm so proud of you. My stamps. You know, it's just like unbelievable casting, unbelievable.
Where Franny's proud of him. She just solved this murder, and she's proud of him. He's also in Gothica with Robert Downey Jr. and Halle Berry, so that's pretty fun.
Oh God, I forgot. Oh, you're totally right. And when did that come out? Because that made us think of him as a killer for sure.
2003.
Wow. All right, this is his year.
So he bounced.
Yeah, he's like, no, I'm going to be the scary guy. Anyway, what a good movie. It is on Paramount, Showtime, if you have it. If not, I think it's worth a rent, worth a rewatch.
Yeah.
Oh, he also plays John Wayne Gacy in one of the seasons of American Horror Story.
Like if you like studying slick production, if you like studying slick production, this is worth a buy, I would say.
Oh my God,
I think you're 100%.
Dave, are you, because we talked about Mank a
couple.
couple years ago, are you a huge fan of David Fincher's work? And Seven, we've talked about a couple of his movies.
I am. I didn't put 2 and 2 together. Like, I don't know it's a David Fincher film until I go, oh, it's a David Fincher film. Like, till I see a credit. But I am a huge fan of a lot of what he's done.
Where does this rank for you guys in the Fincher filmography? He's made 12 feature films, including The Killer just recently. Where does it rank for you?
Haven't seen Killer yet, but this probably sits right under 7.
7 might be your favorite.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, I love when a movie when great filmmakers are like this, but I do really love The Social Network. I think it's just done brilliantly, completely different from this, but it's brilliant. And then of course 7 is really high, but I love Fight Club too. So I would say this is definitely in my top 4. I mean, it could be number 1, it could be number 4. It's just like, it might depend on the day that you ask me.
I feel you. I again, that filmmaking thing, I think it does, like, it feels different than his more recent stuff. Even Fight Club, it feels different than that, but certainly Social Network. I think Gone Girl is a really special movie. If you haven't revisited that,
I think
one's
so too.
Disturbing. But yeah, I mean, it's a real it really stands out. So I think it's a top 5. If anyone wants to go down your Fincher hole, I think this is Jesus.
Yeah, Mindhunter's cool. Also,
your Fincher rabbit hole.
you guys go watch them. Go watch some Paula Abdul music videos too. You want to go in there and watch some
or a zillion commercials.
Some of the outfield. Steve Winfield. What's his name? Rick Springfield. He says fucking everybody.
That wasn't even close.
That took a long time. It took a long time, but we got there. Samsonite.
Man, I was way off. He also directed a Patrick Swayze music video. How did he get Aliens 3? All right, guys. What a fucking fun rewatch of this. What a year.
So much fun. What an incredible
I love that this movie pops, because
year.
we could have easily talked about No Country or There Will Be Blood or fucking Michael Clayton. I'm so glad we talked about this
Absolutely.
movie. All right. We're back on next week. We got to spin the wheel again.
Let's do it.
Dave, you ready for the wheel?
Spin it.
You want to spin the wheel?
We're going to spin the wheel, and then we'll let you know what we're watching after this, people. Oh, we got a 1. We got a 9. 1950. Wow, we're going back.
54.
1950.
We've had a few years in the 2000s, haven't we? And now we're back to 1954.
Yeah.
1954. All right,
Rubber
we'll tell you what
band
we're watching
pulled
at
us
the
right back.
end of this episode, people. At the end of this episode, we hope you watch along with us. But let's do our quick round of what you've been watching. Dave, we like to start with you. What you been watching?
Well, just before this show, I got back from taking some friends to see the Marvels for a second time.
Dave is leading the charge.
You want them to get their money back.
I just think it just friends don't let friends miss good films, and they had a raucous
That's a
great
t-shirt.
time. Fell out of their seat laughing at some of the stuff that happens in that movie. My wife wasn't behind one section of it, but she really loved everything else.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Yeah, and I watched the Nicolas Cage film Sympathy for the Devil. It's the one they were advertising for a while, where it's the
Sympathy
guy
for the
going.
Devil.
Yeah, it came out a couple of months ago.
Wait, but not the dream.
What?
Not the dream one.
scenario?
Yeah. It's basically this guy's going to a hospital where his wife's giving birth, and Nicolas Cage gets in the back of his car with a gun and is like, "Just drive."
Oh man, of course he did.
Yeah,
Whoa.
and it
Weird.
escalates from there. The trailer makes it looks like it's something it's not. Don't wait for what they hint at in the trailer. But it definitely does not.
This was a straight to streamer?
Yeah,
I didn't even hear
it
about
was on
this.
AMC Plus.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Wow,
Yeah.
Niche.
everybody's
Yeah.
favorite streaming platform. I'm sorry.
AMC, we're available for sponsorship if you want to.
I mean, at least
Jeff,
the rap
what
works
about you,
now.
dude?
John, you go second. This is our order.
I'll go second. So I've been just doing like prep stuff for this film we're coming up. So I was just sending some like tonal things to people to watch, and I was watching a couple things. So I think it's episode 3 of season 3 of Atlanta, Trinity to the Bone. I don't know if you guys are Atlanta watchers. I go in and out of that show quite a
Same.
bit. Like
I
there's
didn't watch
so
season
many
4 though.
standalone episodes.
I watched the first 3. I don't know if I watched the 4th season.
Okay, so this is the one where this is a standalone. Like there are a lot of them. They're just total standalones, like short films. They're like half-hour long. This is the one about like that white family who's their nanny basically passes, and she's this. You learn that she was an older Trinidadian woman, and they go to her funeral because their little kid wants to go to the funeral, and it's just about like the chaos that kind of ensues when these cultures clash. And
Oh, cool.
it was just so fantastic. The tone is great. Everything, all the work is great.
Well, that's in response to that. That has to be
good.
that's to be a follow up to the reparations episode of Atlanta, which is fucking wild. It's so.
I mean, that is a crazy one. There's so many incredible episodes of that show.
I agree.
And then I also rewatched, and I sent this to the team for everybody to watch, the episode of Fishes, the Christmas flashback episode of season 2 of The Bear.
The Christmas flashback. Yeah.
The family reunion.
You want some family anxiety? You go ahead and watch that episode.
Intensity.
I actually personally I
Yeah.
love the final episode of that season the best, but the whole season is fantastic. I love the standalone where the older brother goes to the other. It is a really good season of The Bear this year.
Oh my God, the 2 standalones in
Copenhagen.
the 3 standalones in that season.
Copenhagen, and then the other one, and then fucking all of a sudden you see Olivia Colman, and you're like, what? And
What
she's
the
like, no,
fuck?
I like to do the prep, and then she has to go to like a investors talk or something.
She's just everywhere now.
So Angela's birthday was great. It was amazing,
Truly.
of course. So that was I watched that for sure. And I finished the Beckham documentary, which I really I think it was great for me to have seen The Crown into that because it's about fame. I love the soccer. I love the football. I love that they started and they really made sure that you knew that he was actually really good. But like all of a sudden they're like, he was the captain of England for 100 matches. And you're like, why did we only see 2 of them? You know, it's like they clearly were more interested in the fame element. And it was only 4 episodes. So they also were like, well, we want to keep this short as opposed to some of these other docuseries that go on for 10 episodes. So 4 episodes, they basically, it's like a greatest hits of what it should have been in a way. But it was still very entertaining, I think. So that's what I watched, and I did watch the first half of Slow Horses is back on, and then I kind of I kind of remembered that Apple TV is no longer doing. I think for everything they're not doing the binge thing, right? I don't think they did it always anyway, but like they're releasing it 1 per week, so I'm like, well, I have no rush because I still have a couple more weeks. So
I have one more. I saw Monarch. Legacy of Monsters.
That looks so coa
You watched all of it? Or
No,
I've
watched, it's a whole series. But it tags on the end of like the last Godzilla where they introduced the Monarch Corporation, and all of these monsters just exist in the world now. And they're like all the cities have shit set up for like, you know how you got your air raid alert and your tidal wave alert. Well, now you got
what are they called?
Godzilla.
What's the Japanese word for the monsters? They have a word for what it means to have those giant monsters that they call them all something. What the fuck is the name of that term? Anyway, sorry.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Cool. Nice.
All right,
I drove by the DGA the other day. I live really close to it, and they were having their gigantic premiere for it. I don't know who would have been there.
Well, the first episode is fucking brilliant, and I haven't even seen Kurt Russell turn up yet. So.
Right.
Oh, he's in it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Kurt Russell and Wyatt Russell playing the same character in 2 timelines, like 2 different time periods.
Oh, wow.
I feel like they filmed this right before they were like, maybe we shouldn't spend so much money on TV. Because this is clearly huge, but I'm glad you like it.
Well, it's like the money we save on not having to de-age Kurt Russell, we can spend on Godzilla.
Yeah,
So-
truly. Yeah.
De-age Godzilla.
All right. Do you guys want to then
Yeah, let's take a break. We'll be right back.
Yeah, very quickly, we'll tell you what we're going to be talking about.
And we're back.
And we're back.
And we're back.
Yeah.
All right. So the movies that we considered include On the Waterfront. We include Them, the movie, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Dial M for Murder. A lot of good shit that came out this year. The First Star is Born, you said, John. The Wild One, Kane Mutiny. A lot of musicals, The Brigadoon, White Christmas. But what do we decide to do, Dave?
Rear Window, of course.
Of course.
Yes. Rear Window.
John, I
Hitchcock masterpiece.
John, I hear this movie sucks. What do you think? Rear Window.
I think it's his worst movie. I think everybody would agree it's Hitchcock's fail. Yeah, he really swung and missed with this one.
I saw this in a literary film
I'm
adaptation
excited.
class one time. I can't wait to talk about it again with you guys.
This is Elizabeth's favorite Hitchcock too.
So she got rewatched? Oh, right.
I was sat
Excited to
down.
watch it.
I was sat down and made to watch this in high school drama. I didn't suffer for
nice,
it.
dude.
Yeah.
And you didn't suffer for it.
Fuck yeah.
All right. Well, on the outro here, I'm going to look up if it's streamable on any platform. Otherwise, I'm going to have to fucking
Oh
rent
yeah,
it.
we really should start checking that.
We should start checking that. But thank you so much, film fans. We hope you enjoyed talking about the year 2007, which was so fun. What a good year. And this movie is yes, it's on Criterion. Yes. Woo! Get your Criterion sub up, people. Support the Criterion channel. Come on.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
All right. And thanks, John, for your password. Guys, see you next week, film fans, where we talk about 1954 and Rear Window.
Enjoy your cease and desist letters.